In an unfamiliar room, a boy wakes up to the sound of his phone alarm. When he opens his eyes, he is shocked to see the walls covered in red symbols. He wonders who could have done this while he was asleep. Strangely, the letters start to fade. He convinces himself it was a dream, even though it looked too real. When he looks around, he realizes the room is not his own. The instant noodles he ate and the 2 tissues he threw on the floor are gone. Confused and anxious, he begins to panic. Suddenly, memories flood his mind, fragments of another life belonging to someone just like him. Both are orphans, but they lived very different lives. The boy studied hard and entered a prestigious university, while the other version of him dropped out of school and worked a terrible job. Looking at his trembling hand, he wonders if this is another world. He remembers nothing about the strange words written in blood. As he tries to make sense of everything, a voice calls him husband and tells him breakfast is ready. He turns and sees a beautiful, curvy woman. Puzzled, he wonders if in this new life he got married so early. She sits beside him on the bed and insists he should get up, since it is already late. The boy starts to think maybe this new life is not so bad. Swallowing nervously, he admits to himself that without this strange change, he would never be with such a kind and beautiful woman. She keeps urging him to eat, but he hesitates. Unsure how to address her, he decides to search his borrowed memories for her name. Strangely, he finds nothing. No name, no memories, no shared experiences. When he looks at her again, she remains still. He realizes something is wrong. A fly lands on her eye, and when he nervously asks who she is, she freezes for a moment. Then her mouth stretches open monstrously as she mutters that he can see. Terrified, he stammers that he is only a bit confused. But she transforms into a huge creature. Before he can react, she devours him. He wakes up in bed again, drenched in cold sweat. For a moment, he believes it was all a nightmare, until he sees the bloody words once more. They vanish before he can read them. He wonders if they contained some kind of clue. Looking at his hand, he decides he must pretend to be blind. But he knows from the body's memories that the original owner had normal vision. That makes no sense. Still, he concludes that if this woman learns he can see her, he will die. For now, he must act like she is not there. A hand pushes the door open, and she calls him to breakfast. She approaches seductively while he tries to remain calm. She sets something on the table and asks if he is awake. He knows he must not move or react, but when her long tongue brushes against his face, he flinches. Immediately, she realizes he can see. His face twists under a curse, and his body explodes. He wakes again, startled, this time furious at her. Trembling, he wonders if he is being revived or trapped in a time loop, like a game that resets at a save point. He takes out his phone and plays TikTok videos of dancing girls, pretending to be distracted. Once again, the woman appears, calling him to breakfast. She asks why he is looking at other women. He mutters to himself about how much he loves the streamer, hopping to play along. She approaches, accusing him of hiding his sight. He keeps staring at his phone to avoid reacting. But suddenly, her image appears on the live stream itself. Shocked, he drops his phone. She opens her monstrous mouth behind him. He tries to fight back, throwing a punch, but she dodges. She bites into his arm, tearing him apart. As she feeds on his remains, he slips into unconsciousness once more. Again, she wakes him, calling him for breakfast. By the 6th resurrection, he still panics whenever she gets too close, which leads to repeated deaths. On the 8th attempt, he tries to escape the room, but there is no way out. Realizing escape is impossible, he pretends to like her, hopping to survive. He compliments her when she brings breakfast, but she eats everything herself, leaving him to starve. He dies 13 times this way. By the 14th, 15th, and 16th deaths, he has grown weary. Each time, he gains more of the original body's memories. He learns this strange world is filled with unnatural horrors. On his 18th death, he questions why the bloody words appear and disappear, and who could be behind it. He is sure the woman is one of the monsters. This time, when she calls him to breakfast again, he notices that she never forces physical contact unless she knows he can see her. She teases him with offers of food, but there is none. He prepares his own snack instead. Suddenly, she transforms into the floor, asking if he can see her. He heads for the door, determined to leave. She appears on the doorknob, begging him to stay. He opens the door anyway, swearing to himself that no one kills him 18 times and gets away with it. He vows to return for revenge. But when he steps outside, the sky is red and filled with grotesque creatures. In the streets, only strange silhouettes of people move about. Nervous laughter escapes him as he mutters that this world is fascinating. But then he feels sick and vomits on the ground. A little girl appears and asks if he is okay. Surprised, he smiles and tells her she can call him Big Brother. He pats her head warmly, thinking how nice it would be to have a daughter. But suddenly she transforms into a massive demon with a blade, declaring that he can see her. His heart nearly stops, but instead of fear, he bursts out laughing, shouting that this world is exciting. He even says he prefers her monstrous form, because now he will feel no guilt in killing her. But the creature tears him apart, and once again he wakes in bed, his wife asking if he is okay. Exhausted, he thinks that having breakfast 20 times in a single day is unbearable. Later, while sitting on a park bench, the same little girl approaches again. She asks where her mother is and if he can take her home. He reflects on the strange types of beings in this world. Some are chaotic illusions that cannot affect reality. Others look human and do nothing but seek reactions, like his wife. Normal people cannot even perceive them, yet they persist in attaching themselves to humans. He begins to wonder if these beings are trying to merge into human life. Later, he checks his phone and receives a payment of 3 cents. He knows he will need money to survive here and uncover the truth. In his work group, a man named Wudai calls for him. His own name in this life is Yizufangu, and he works selling apartments. He realizes he never received his commission for one sale, and so he messages the group that he will resolve it and rides his bike quickly to the office. But when he arrives, the building looks like an abandoned hospital instead of the company's headquarters. Cold sweat runs down his back as he wonders if this is really the right place. His phone rings, and his coworkers tell him everyone is inside. They mention the owner's son had been calling him many times. Yizu agrees to come up. He senses that reality itself has been twisted, yet the people on the call act normal. As he walks through the hallway, he accidentally bumps into something soft. Curious, he reaches again and feels 2 round shapes. And only then he receives a sudden slap. A furious girl appears, yelling that she will report him before running toward a guard. Confused, he looks up and sees a sign for B Academy. But when he blinks, it turns back into the abandoned hospital. He touches a wall and realizes his hand passes through it. It reminds him of the strange creatures that require certain conditions to interact. Deciding to test further, he steps through the wall and enters a dizzying corridor filled with empty rooms. From one of the doors, a strong smell of blood drifts out. Hesitant but determined, he pushes through the wall and enters a room. On the floor, a girl cries. She lifts her head, calling him Big Brother. This time he stays strong and ignores her, slipping through the wall to the other side. There he faces another creature, but he keeps walking without reacting. Even the monster looks uncertain. He realizes the building is full of dozens of bizarre things. Each room hides strange scenes, and some appear to be open enough to escape through. Thanks to the experience of dying 18 times at the hands of his wife, he no longer reacts so easily. On the floor, he notices some papers describing experiment number 128, which underwent a transformation. He crouches to read them, wondering if all transformed beings were once human. But he cannot even turn the page, since he is not part of this world. Suddenly, something brushes through him. It is the long hair of a monster clinging to the ceiling. She descends near his face and teases him, asking if he came to explore the mysteries of life with her. He ignores her and thinks the director's office might hold the answers. This building, once a mental hospital, used to be the sales company in the memories of the body's original owner. The staff room of the company should now be the director's office. Deciding to check it, he heads upstairs. As he walks, someone calls him Brother Sue and demands to know why he is there. A chubby man appears, shouting at him for daring to return to work after being fired, but Fangu simply pushes him aside, convinced nothing useful is on this floor. The man with glasses looks puzzled, while the angry boss curses and orders the bespectacled man to stop him. Fangu ignores them and heads straight for the second floor. At last, he reaches the director's office. Someone yells at him to stop, but his hand is already on the doorknob. Behind him, his colleagues panic, whispering that everything is over. Inside, he sees the figure of a woman. The people question who he is and what he is doing there. Fangu grabs the woman's arm. She resists, asking what he is doing, but he throws her aside, calling her noisy. She falls and one of the men rushes to help her. Fangu, uninterested, begins searching the office and finds a piece of paper on the desk. As he expected, the note holds a secret. It says that if he wants to receive the gift of fate and uncover the mysteries of this world, he must go to room 520. He wonders if this message is meant for him and how they knew he would come. The location is in Building C. Suddenly, the lamp shatters. His friend with glasses continues to follow him. The other three remain behind, too afraid to go further. Fangu turns on his phone light, muttering that something feels wrong. His friend notices he is acting oddly, especially since he refuses to speak to anyone. As Fangu lights the hallway, he realizes he is no longer inside a hospital, but back in the old company building. The blonde man, half joking, asks the chubby one for his phone, but it has no signal. He calmly remarks that with his status, he can access more than they think. Still, he admits everything they are experiencing points to the same conclusion. They have entered a strange world. A normal reality has been twisted and is now corrupted by anomalies. Some employees are still worried about unfinished work. One of the guards checks if everything is fine and leaves to investigate the power outage. A girl picks up her phone and turns on the flashlight, but the light is too weak. Fangu switches on his own light and asks the man with glasses why his is so dim as well. The group begins to question the blonde man about his claim that they have entered another world. Losing patience, he shouts at everyone to be quiet. He insists that calmness is their only chance of survival. The others fall silent, startled by his sudden change of mood. He explains that they have entered a world filled with ghosts. It is an alternate dimension, coexisting with the real one. The group listens uneasily. Someone points out that the guard has not returned. It has already been 3 minutes. Tang, the blonde man, warns them not to break the rules of the ghosts, or they will die. The chubby man trembles, asking what they should do now. Tang replies that they must urgently find a way out, or every single one of them will perish. Meanwhile, Fangu feels cold sweat run down his neck. From the sensation behind him, he knows a ghost is approaching. He warns everyone that a ghost is near. The group dismisses it, insisting nothing is there. But suddenly, one of the girls is yanked by her hair. Fangu watches silently as the others scream. Then he calmly states that surely the girl is already gone. Her friend with glasses panics, insisting she must have just walked away. She calls out for her, begging her to answer. But in the darkness, no one can see anything. Wang turns to Fangu and asks if he saw the ghost. He admits he did not. Surely vanished too quickly. Immediately, suspicion grows among the group. They say he is acting too calm, as though he has no fear at all, and some begin to suspect he might be a spiritual master. Confused, Fangu asks what that means. They explain that a spiritual master is someone who controls spiritual energy, a person essential in situations like this. Fangu finds it odd that the body he inhabits did not know of such a thing. He then asks if this ability can be learned in the realm of the strange, and if so, he wants to know how. Tang studies him and sees how calm and confident he is. Perhaps this man could be the key to escaping, as he explains that to leave this world, one must gather the power of ghosts. 2 conditions are required. The first is to endure fear between life and death, creating an emotional trauma. The second is to come into contact with the ghost so its power can enter your soul. But this is dangerous, as ghostly power is like a bloody cloak. It can protect you, but it will also stain your soul. These words leave Fangu thoughtful. He has already died many times, and he knows too well the weight of fear and death. He avoids touching the ghosts so he will not die. He knows most street creatures are only illusions if he does not react to them. But when a ghost crosses into reality, it can kill without being seen. He thinks that if he can make contact on his terms, he might learn how to destroy them. Remembering his wife, he decides he is desperate to become a spiritual master and end her. Another person vanishes, and Tang loses control, telling everyone to stay quiet or more ghosts will come. Fifi asks what they should do, afraid she will be next. Fangu studies the timing. He says the pattern is 2 minutes for women and 3 minutes for men. The guard disappeared. 3 minutes later, a girl disappeared. 2 minutes after that, a man disappeared. By this logic, there are 3 minutes before the next person vanishes. He heads for the door. The others ask if he is trying to get himself killed. He tells them to look for a solution, or everyone will die in that room. Tang points at him and orders him to stop, but Fangu ignores him. He warns that there are 8 people, and in about 20 minutes, no one will be left. Anyone who tries to block him, he says, will die before the ghosts do. They walk the corridors. The friend with glasses wonders why they never find the stairs. Fangu recognizes the same lights from the hospital. In an instant, they are back inside the hospital. A friend asks if they are hallucinating, since they were just in the company building. Fangu becomes certain the company and the hospital are overlapping in this warped reality. The hospital has swallowed the company. They come upon a red pool. The whole corridor is smeared with blood. The uniforms on the floor belong to their coworkers. Fangu concludes the ghosts take 2 minutes for women and 3 for men, because that is how long they need to consume each victim. He says they still have a little time. The friend with glasses thinks the ghosts are still eating Jiling. Fangu finds it strange. Earlier, everyone in the hospital seemed trapped, and the first time he passed here, there was not this much blood. The cuts on the clothes show a sharp blade is being used. He has seen only one such blade. Something drops from the ceiling, and he remembers the one ghost that moves freely, the doctor he saw above him. They hear sounds from that direction. The group from the room catches up and asks what to do. They look uneasy. The chubby man asks if Fangu found anything by going ahead. Suddenly, there are screams. A girl points at the blood and says there is too much of it. Everyone recognizes the clothes as their allies' uniforms. Tang asks if the others have been eaten. Fei begs to leave, and Tang agrees they must escape as fast as possible. They ask Fangu to lead. He stays silent for a moment, then says the time has come. Fifi asks what time he means. Behind them, hair lowers from the ceiling. They turn slowly. The ghost doctor descends. The moment Fifi panics, the creature draws near to her and another person. Everyone runs. Tang is yanked back because Fifi has fallen and is clinging to him, begging to be saved. Seeing the monster approaching, he slaps her hand away to free himself. While the others flee, Fangu recalls the first time he saw the doctor. On the ground, Fifi begs not to be abandoned, but the creature already has her by the hair. With tears in her eyes, Fifi begs for help, but the lights go out and blood rains in that place. The friend with glasses is horrified as Fifi dies. The monster does not stop and keeps cutting her many times. Fangu notices the scalpel skills are advanced, which means the ghost practiced a lot. He and his friend stand nearby, but the creature does not focus on them. Performing 2 surgeries at once would be nearly impossible. The monster puts away the scalpel and opens its mouth to eat Fifi. Fangu understands the instinct to eat is part of the ghosted nature. He steps closer. His friend asks what he is doing. Fangu strikes the ghost in the face without fear. He is startled by the feel of its skin, as hard as steel. He remembers that all these creatures are much stronger than humans. To change this, he must become a spiritual master. His friend urges him to run, but Fangu says this moment is actually safest, because the creature kills one person at a time. While it is eating, the danger to others is lower. The friend warns it will finish soon. Fangu replies that Fifi had an extra round piece of flesh that will slow the monster down. The friend retches at the implication. Fangu reminds himself he needs to absorb cursed energy from the creatures, and that the concentration is highest near them in this dimension. Physical contact would be best. He pats the ghost's thighs to see if he can draw in the energy. The monster's legs are bent the wrong way. Fangu keeps patting them. The friend tells him to focus. But Fangu says if the friend is afraid, he can run. The friend refuses and decides to help. He reaches out and touches the ghost's legs, but they are icy cold. While they keep patting, the friend says nothing feels different. Fangu says they will continue. The friend admits he never thought his first contact would be with a ghost, and that these legs are far too long. Fangu thinks the friend might have hidden potential. He was terrified before, but now he is steady. Fangu sets a timer, and 1 minute passes. He tells the friend they will bother the ghost for another 30 seconds, then run. After 1 minute, Fangu jumps up and says it is time to flee. The friend asks if escape is possible and where they are going. Fangu says he knows the hospital layout well and will use the terrain to open distance from the doctor. But the doctor appears in front of them. Fangu wonders if he miscalculated. How did she finish eating so fast? He glances down and sees 2 silicone implants on the floor. The extra mass was fake, and the ghost is already behind him. The scalpel slices his neck. His vision goes dark. His head rolls, and then he opens his eyes again. He is back at the moment beside the monster, right when the friend commented on how cold the legs were. Fangu concludes the time loops are tied to events, or like a game where you clear a section and it saves your progress. The friend is still amused, but Fangu remembers he died because of the silicone. He cannot repeat that mistake. He grabs the friend and tells him they must go now. The friend, still drooling with excitement, wants to stay longer, but Fangu insists that the extra bulk was silicone. If they do not run, they both die. The friend finally understands why the body was so large and bolts. They race down the stairs and run into the others, who are also descending. Panic spreads and the crowd surges. Fangu grips the handrail and vaults ahead of everyone. The chubby man yelps that he thought Fangu was the ghost and begs him not to scare them like that. The friend with glasses asks why everyone is moving so slowly. Someone claims they have already gone down 20 floors. But Zaihu says that is impossible, since he and Fangu descended only 3 and still caught up. People tell Zaihu to shut up and stop lying. Tang, however, realizes the ghost is generating false paths. He laments that monsters like this can create illusions that trap you. Fangu grows thoughtful and watches the argument, already planning their next move. Fangu steps forward and tells everyone to throw whatever spare items they have on the floor to mark the path. The group panics and starts dropping things from their pockets and bags. Money, bottles, and even a small shirt end up scattered across the stairs. He orders them to move quickly, and they rush downward. After some time, they find the very same objects again. The group recognizes their own belongings, proof that they are running in circles. Fangu shows interest in the small shirt. Suddenly Tang shouts, insisting that only a spiritualist can see the exit. He tells everyone to activate their power and try to sense something. He clasps his hands together, unsure if his past experience was enough to awaken an ability, but hopping it might help them escape. The others grow confused, not knowing how to do this. They start imitating him, while Fangu focuses on the structure of the staircase. He recalls that exits in these corridors are always on the right side, so he looks for clues there. Tang presses him again, asking what he is doing. Fangu calmly replies that he does not care about praying. He is more interested in finding a real way out. Zaihu is amazed at how calm Fangu remains. Tang remembers how fearless Fangu was even when the monster appeared. Now they have been fleeing down the stairs, but somehow ended up encountering the others again. Tang notices that Fangu and his friend even spent a full minute near the monster without dying, which makes no sense. The psycho in him starts to believe they are somehow using the ghost to their advantage, though he doubts it could be possible. Meanwhile, Fangu touches the wall, counting softly, 10, 12, 15, before announcing he has found something. The friend is shocked to see an actual door appear. Tang rushes over, asking if they really discovered the exit. The problem is how to open it. Fangu imagines where the lock should be and runs his hand across the empty air. To his surprise, the door unlocks. Energy spills out from the doorway. Fangu is ready to enter first, but Tang pushes past him, shouting that they are finally saved. Everyone rushes after him, desperate to escape. Zaihu asks Fangu why he is letting the others go ahead and how he can remain so calm. Fangu knows there is no point in rushing when a creature like that doctor is involved. A large, sweaty man shoves past them, warning that if they do not run, they will only end up as shields. Fangu's true plan is simple. He wants to see who gets caught so that the ghost will pause, giving him the chance to increase his spiritual energy. The others continue racing forward until they come to a split path. The team immediately starts arguing, each person wanting someone else to test the directions. Tang once again asks Fangu to decide, insisting that if he found the iron door earlier, he must know the way. But Fangu is unwilling to help. To him, they have treated him like bait all along. While the group shouts at him to decide quickly as the ghost approaches, Fangu thinks coldly that every single one of them is just a tool. He takes the right path, knowing that if he wants to escape, he will need to sacrifice lives along the way. The moment the others see him choose that path, they follow in a rush. From behind, a faint hand scrapes the walls. The ghost has arrived. The chubby man is the last in line. The monster drops from the ceiling, preparing to strike. As its hair reaches for him, the man panics, yelling that he cannot die. In desperation, he grabs the collar of the blonde man ahead of him and throws him backward. The blonde falls, crying out, but the ghost's scalpel slashes his neck instantly. Blood splatters across the walls. Watching this, Fangu realizes that man is no better than a ghost himself, his sanity long gone. But Fangu focuses on what matters. This is another chance to build spiritual energy. The group demands to know what he plans to do. Once again, he finds himself standing face to face with the ghost. The twisted friend joins him, saying Fangu cannot have all the fun alone. He presses his hands to the monster's cold skin, describing it as smooth as ice jade. Fangu thinks his companion has gone mad, but perhaps madness will awaken spiritual power. Together, they might find a way out. Later, while running again, Fangu asks his friend if he is not afraid of dying. The friend says waiting for death is worse than being killed outright, and besides, he trusts Fangu to lead the way. They reach the cafeteria. Everyone is exhausted from hunger and thirst after running for so long. Tang begins grabbing supplies, promising to share them later. The chubby man steps forward, asking for his portion. Suddenly, a girl cries out that she has found something. Tang warns her not to move. She points to a door. Excited, Tang declares they are saved. But when they open it, they only find another door at the end of a dim corridor. Fangu notices that the light here is weaker than before. They open the next door and discover only a small utility room. It is a dead end. Now the only way back is through the path they came, which means someone must die to distract the doctor again. Fangu turns around and starts heading back toward the ghost. The others curse him for choosing the wrong way, but he feels no guilt. He never asked them to follow him in the first place. Zayahu reminded the group that no one had been forced to follow Fangu. The chubby man complained that it did not matter, because Fangu looked like he was making choices without knowing anything. Tang tried to calm everyone down, saying survival was more important than arguing. He explained that the creature attacked only one person at a time, and then paused for 2 or 3 minutes. The only chance of escape was to choose someone as bait. Fangu immediately understood what Tang was planning. Tang struck him in the chest and declared that since it was Fangu's fault they were all trapped, he should be the sacrifice. Zayahu asked what he was doing, but Tang called on the group to help hold Fangu down. Zayahu reacted quickly, putting Tang in a chokehold. Tang then called the chubby man over. The chubby man forced Zayahu into another choke and dragged him to the ground. At that moment, the door slammed shut, leaving Fangu isolated outside the room. The group asked what he was doing, but he told them he had never expected to find people stranger than the ghosts themselves. He thanked them for their interest, warned them he would make them all pay later, and then died once again. As his body collapsed, the group opened the door and rushed out. Zayahu, with tears in his eyes, tried to help Fangu. Tang glanced back and froze. Even in death, Fangu was smiling. He told Tang to wait just a little longer. Time reset again, back to the moment when he warned about the silicone. This time he ran with a twisted smile. The others fled down the stairs, thinking the ghost was chasing them. Once again, he surged ahead of the group, ignoring their shouts. As they became trapped in another looping staircase, Fangu calmly counted steps and opened a hidden door without hesitation. No one understood how he could find it so quickly. Tang asked if Fangu had awakened spiritual powers, but he ignored the question and simply warned that they had only 1 minute before the ghost appeared. Tang grinned, certain that Fangu had awakened his powers, and promised him 5 million if he helped him escape. But Fangu just smirked and said he had something else to take care of first. When Tang asked what, Fangu drove his knee into Tang's stomach. Tang groaned and fell to the floor in pain. Fangu told him to use that 5 million to pay for treatment. Tang writhed, insisting he could pay even more if Fangu asked. But Fangu did not care now. The rest of the group cursed him, calling him filthy. Fangu told them it was impossible to outrun the ghost's speed. With Tang crippled on the ground, everyone else was safe, for now. The group was confused, not understanding what he meant. Then another kick landed, and the chubby man collapsed, groaning in agony. Then another kick landed, and the chubby man collapsed, groaning in agony. Fangu said that man should have died long ago. Zayahu and the others demanded to know if he had lost his mind, and whether he planned to do this to everyone. Fangu said no, he needed at least one person alive. Zayahu admitted that it was a clever strategy, though the rest of the group questioned if Fangu was even human anymore. He pointed them toward the path and said time was running out. But the group grew suspicious because he was not taking the lead himself. Fangu replied that he would stay behind to touch some thighs. The group was unsettled, but the mad friend only laughed and said he wanted to stay as well. The doctor ghost appeared again. The group resumed flaying, but some of them lingered just behind a wall to watch. On the ground, Tang begged to be saved. He realized his pants were wet. Fangu's earlier blow had caused internal bleeding. Tang clutched at Fangu's leg, trying to drag him down, vowing they would die together. Fangu coldly stepped on his hand and told him not to worry. He would stay close and watch him die. The ghost seized Tang by the neck, and he was gone. Blood sprayed across Fangu's face, and he even licked it. He muttered that the taste of revenge was not so bad. But then his heart pounded unexpectedly fast. He wondered why his chest felt like it was racing. In that moment, he heard his wife's voice calling to him. He thought how amazing it would be to see her torn apart the same way Tang had been. He began moving closer to the ghost, and the group whispered among themselves, unsure if this was really his plan. He stared at Xiaohu, remembering how, at the moment of death, Xiaohu had once called out to him. He invited his friend to join him again. Xiaohu hesitated, while the others muttered that Fangu was no better than a ghost. Fangu realized that after dying 20 times and witnessing so much madness, his emotions were fading. His humanity was slipping away. He and Xiaohu were no longer the same as before. Even so, Xiaohu surprised him. He said that inside this company, Fangu was the only person he could trust, his only true friend. He would go along with Fangu's plan, though he admitted Fangu looked terrifying with blood smeared across his face. Blushing, Xiaohu stepped closer, helping him activate more spiritual power. While they worked, Xiaohu asked why he attacked Tang and the chubby man. Fangu explained that the ghost's speed made escape impossible, and once it caught up, those two men, both holding higher positions, would have sacrificed everyone else without hesitation. Then he felt a strange chill spread through him. He asked Xiaohu if he could feel it too. Xiaohu replied that he felt nothing unusual. Fangu realized this was no illusion. The coldness was the influence of the ghost's power. Fangu felt that the strange connection inside him was weak, but close to reaching a breaking point. Maybe this was the beginning of awakening spiritual power. Xiaohu, now more motivated, wanted to search for this cold energy. Suddenly he warned that they should run, but Fangu replied that there was no need since the chubby man was still lying nearby. Xiaohu smiled, saying that was good news, but he asked what awakening felt like because he did not sense anything. Fangu explained that Xiaohu probably lacked a life-or-death trigger. His mental state had not yet reached the right level, so he felt nothing. Xiaohu thought this was strange and asked when Fangu had faced such a situation. As they spoke, the ghost leaned down and licked the chubby man's face. Fangu remarked that it was fortunate, since it would take about 5 minutes, giving them time to absorb as much energy as possible. Cold power entered Fangu's body, and he concentrated on where it was flowing. Soon he felt it reach his brain and his heart, freezing them like blocks of ice. A blade of cold pierced through him, shattering his body, and then a flash appeared in his chest. That light condensed into a red sphere. When Fangu regained consciousness, he noticed that all 5 of his senses had sharpened. His thoughts were faster, and his control over his body had improved. It felt as if a hidden part of the world had opened to him. Still, he realized he had awakened less than 1% of his true capacity. The ability seemed linked to his deepest desire. He wondered what it could be, then suddenly clutched his chest as pain shot through him. He thought maybe his ability was to create suffering. After so many deaths, his greatest craving had become the act of reliving agony. He discovered he could now make enemies feel pain, confusion, and torment. A wide smile spread across his face as he laughed, declaring that this was perfect for him. Xiaohu nervously asked if it had really worked. Fangu was certain it was the best ability he could have gained. He remembered his monstrous wife with dark joy. Fangu stood in a trance until Xiaohu reminded him that 2 minutes had already passed. Fangu told him to step back because he intended to test his power immediately. He advanced toward the ghost doctor, focusing all his energy into his hand. That energy carried every death, every scar, every piece of suffering he had collected. He realized that the more he died, the stronger this power would become. As long as he kept reviving, his strength could grow without limit. He punched the ghost in the face, eager to make her share his masterpiece of torment. The blow landed, but the energy quickly dissolved. The ghost dropped her scalpel and fell to the floor, weeping. But Fangu realized the attack had been weak. His tiny amount of spiritual power was already exhausted, and she had not truly felt the pain he wanted her to. Xiaohu suggested they should flee, or perhaps go back to making contact with her to absorb more. Fangu instead thought about channeling his energy into a weapon. Conveniently, one lay on the floor right before him. He crouched and reached for the fallen blade. But the moment he touched it, energy surged into his heart. Memories of every cut, every scream, every death the weapon had caused poured into his mind. It was filled with resentment and agony. Fangu wondered if he could use it to end the ghost doctor. He told Xiaohu to move aside, then swung the weapon into the back of her neck. But the strike did nothing. Zaihu pulled at her shirt to check, and indeed there was not even a scratch. He asked how they were supposed to kill her like this. Fangu continued to pat her back, but quickly realized that without stronger spiritual power, the weapon was useless. At that moment, he understood that true revenge would have to wait. The ghost doctor began to rise, forcing Fangu to shove Zaihu forward, urging him to run. As the monster straightened, she searched for her missing scalpel. Fangu, with his sharpened senses, could now feel the presence of others nearby. Soon, two people who had been hiding revealed themselves. Zaihu angrily called them cowards for running earlier and only returning now to beg for help. Fangu ignored the bickering. He said there was only one option. They would have to split up and try each of the 4 doors. The others panicked, saying they had no time with a monster on their heels and could only risk one choice. Fangu kept walking, reminding them he was not forcing anyone to follow. Then a sound echoed from behind. She was coming closer. Fangu realized that by stealing her scalpel, her behavior had shifted. He opened one of the doors and shouted for everyone to run. They climbed the stairs in a rush. But the moment the door closed behind them, it was smashed apart. The ghost stormed into the corridor with fury on her face, demanding the return of the scalpel. She ignored the others and went straight for Fangu. He blocked her first strike, but then she opened her mouth wide and lunged for his neck. He died at the east gate, but he awakened again in another room. This time he ended up cornering the chubby man elsewhere. Once more he stole the scalpel. He then headed off in another direction with a wicked grin. They tried fleeing to the north gate and reached the elevator. But as soon as Fangu stepped inside, the ghost ripped open the doors and killed him. He revived and tried the south gate. But again the ghost's twisted, flexible body caught him and tore him apart. Death repeated itself again and again. He refused to accept that stealing the scalpel always ended with him being killed. Each revival allowed him to adjust his movements, as if he could foresee what would happen. He knew the left side held a safe passage. But just as he tried, the ghost's teeth sank into his neck once more. After countless attempts, he became certain he could finally do it. He led everyone in that same direction. The ghost chased them, but locked her gaze only on him. At the critical moment, Zaihu called out for him to be careful. Right as she aimed for his face, he sidestepped perfectly, avoiding the strike. He then stood directly before the ghost doctor. The ghost was startled that he had dodged her blow. Zaihu, too, could hardly believe it. Fangu grinned like a madman and charged again. She attacked once more, but he ducked out of reach. After so many deaths, he had memorized her attack patterns. Each painful revival had made his body stronger and his spiritual energy rise. Zaihu was amazed at how he seemed able to predict her every move. The ghost, however, grew furious. She leapt at him, ready to sink her teeth into him. But he rolled aside at the last moment, dodging again. Her patience snapped. She screamed for him to die. But the group stood stunned, watching him survive again and again. Zaihu realized this must be the power of a spiritual master. Fangu sprinted toward the door, certain that freedom was just ahead. But the ghost suddenly froze, blocking his path. He trembled as he realized she was afraid of something. Without warning, the ghost turned and struck Zaihu instead, landing a precise blow. Zaihu staggered back, shaken by the strange coldness that pierced him. He rushed to Fangu, asking what had happened. Fangu replied that everything seemed normal, and by logic, this path should have been their way out. Yet even the ghost had fled when she saw it. That could only mean this was no exit, but rather something so terrifying that even she dared not face it. He understood it was the mouth of an abyss. The group pressed him, asking why he had not run when he had the chance. Fangu simply sat down, saying it was good to rest for a while. After thinking, he told everyone to stand again. Together, they continued wandering the hospital's endless corridors. Slowly, Fangu approached a heavy metal door, wondering if true danger waited beyond. As he moved to open it, Zaihu asked if it was not too risky. But Fangu said they had no choice but to move forward. He stepped into the darkness. The place was silent, so still that he could hear his own thoughts. The path behind them vanished into shadow, leaving only one way to continue ahead. They walked endlessly, the sense of time itself fading away. The road stretched on without end. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Fangu opened his eyes and found himself standing at the entrance of the academy. He wondered if this meant he had truly escaped. Everyone rushed past the academy gates. Zaihu celebrated, saying they had finally escaped. He wanted to get as far away as possible and called for Fangu to run as well. but Fangu sensed something was wrong. Looking back, he noticed only the school remained. The hospital had vanished. Zaihu said he just wanted to go home and rest after such an exhausting day. That was when Fangu noticed something strange. He ran through the city, realizing the ghosts had all disappeared. He could accept the hospital vanishing, but not the complete disappearance of every ghost. How could he take revenge on his wife if she no longer existed? Standing before a car, he muttered that she had to die by his hands. For that reason, he needed to return home. The driver slammed the brakes, and suddenly Fangu found himself sitting in the passenger seat, muttering that his wife could not simply vanish. He refused to accept that she had disappeared without him, facing her one last time. As soon as the taxi stopped, he sprinted home without paying, ignoring the driver's complaints. Racing up the stairs, he shouted that the world could not disappear like that. Bursting into his home, he yelled for his wife not to leave him. But everything looked normal. He checked every room, then collapsed to the floor. She had killed him 18 times. How could he live the rest of his life without her? All his suffering at the hands of the ghost doctor had been for the sake of revenge. He had built up rage and pain to end the ghosts, but now they were gone. Lying on the bed, he wondered where he could direct all his hatred. Without emotions, what meaning was left in life? At that moment, his phone buzzed with a message telling him to check the news. The report said Bao Academy was on fire. More than 11 people had died, including some of the company bosses. Fangu began laughing like a madman when he read the line claiming they had found his body among the dead. He grew excited, convinced the mysteries were not over. They were only playing hide and seek with him. Now he was certain he would see his wife again. His phone kept buzzing with messages from his boss, demanding he come to work. Fangu laughed bitterly, thinking it was absurd that even in death the man still ordered him around. Suddenly, blood-red letters appeared on the screen, warning that silence did not mean ignorance. An eerie energy spilled out of the phone and formed a giant eye, which stared at him and ordered him to follow. Fangu calmly grabbed the eye and told it to stop possessing his phone, since it was the only one he had. The illusion vanished, leaving him curious about what mystery would appear next. He walked to the academy, now reduced to ashes. The burnt smell filled the air, heavy and real. Suddenly Faye appeared, cheerful and excited. She greeted him as if nothing had happened. He grabbed her shoulders and asked if she was real. She only teased him for being bold, but he pushed her away, saying he knew the truth about what had happened. He started climbing the stairs when Zaihu appeared, asking if he was being forced to work. Fangu replied that he actually enjoyed it and asked where Boss Dihai was. Zaihu pointed to the back of the room. Strangely, the company seemed as busy as ever. Fangu began to wonder if everything he had seen before was the illusion, and this was the real world. When he found the boss, Dihai scolded him for responding inappropriately to the group messages. Fangu ignored the lecture and demanded his unpaid commissions. Dihai grew angry, asking how Fangu dared to be late and talk about money. Fangu complained that even dead, Dihai was still disgusting. The boss pointed a finger at him, insisting he was alive and ordering him to speak properly. Suddenly, Fangu struck him with the ghost doctor's weapon. Dihai groaned and collapsed. Fangu smiled darkly, saying now he was definitely not alive. Everyone in the office stood frozen, staring. Fangu walked over to Zaihu, patted him on the shoulder, and asked what was happening. Zaihu's body began to swell and twist into a cursed form. Fangu realized that everyone's bodies in the office were tainted. He began finishing them off one by one. When the slaughter was over, he asked the unseen culprit if they had enjoyed themselves. Then, with a jolt, he realized it was all a dream. On the ground, the people writhed in agony, begging for mercy. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for more awesome stories.